Hey everyone, you know who it is. It's the best teeth in the game, and I'm going to be talking about this new XXL freshman list over here. XXL, as you know, famed hip-hop publication. Every year they come out with a freshman list, a list of newcomers, up-and-comers who they predict are going to be successful in the music industry in the coming years. And usually every year when they drop a freshman list, it's pretty controversial. There's a lot of arguing and battling over whether or not the list is actually good, whether or not any of the artists are actually talented or have any staying power. This new list over here, and I've been keeping track of every list since, I've started my YouTube channel. This list over here really kind of has me a little confused. I don't think it's the oddest list that they've ever dropped. I actually think last year's list was a little bit more of a mixed bag, a bit more eclectic, a bit more unpredictable. There are more people who I see as just kind of being straight rappers on this list, but I feel like the people who are on this list are a little less established. They certainly have like a lot of YouTube buzz, a lot of SoundCloud buzz, but like none of them have dropped a super essential mixtape yet. I would say with the exception of Kyle, but I use the word super essential. Kyle, I feel like artistically, stylistically, is yet to come into his own, but Smile I thought was relatively solid. For what it was, I thought it was solid. Let's go to last year's list just for a second, just to kind of, I guess, as a little bit of a refresher. What I think is sort of important about this list over here is not only were there a lot of negative reactions to this list at the time, I even think I personally had a negative reaction to this list. I thought the inclusion of artists who were really more singers than rappers was kind of odd. But look at this list. Pretty much everybody on this list is either continuing to dominate into 2017 or, if they dropped a project in 2017, there would still be some demand and talk and discussion about it, Like nobody on this list has completely, like 100% totally fallen off into the ether. And it's not that uncommon of a thing for some XXL freshmen to almost disappear off the face of the planet within 365 days. I don't want to jump out here and predict that that is necessarily what's going to happen with this new list over here, because that very much seemed like it could have been the case with last year's list. Certainly, I do see some potential here. I have enjoyed some of Kamaya's tracks. I enjoyed her on that single she had with YG off of his album. She has a single out with YG as well. It's okay. I'm just sort of wondering if she's going to be able to define herself artistically and put out something essential before the whole kind of bit of a nostalgic throwback West Coast craze that she's kind of riding on a little bit fades away, because it's not going to be around forever. A Boogie with the Hoodie does have some big hits on YouTube. He does have some big hits online. But I have not heard anything that to me would say, oh, this is what a Boogie song sounds like. This is what Boogie sounds like. He has tracks that sound like your average trap rapper, tracks that sound like he's doing like a little bit of a Drake thing. He's really all over the place, and I don't really think he's coming all that close to coming into his own. PNB Rock, he just dropped a full-length project not too long ago, and it's already kind of flopped. So I don't see what his potential is going to be going forward. Let's be honest. Playboi Carti is never going to come out with anything essential ever, so let's not even humor that. Maiden Toyo, it's pretty funny that he has a big song out with Big Sean, because a lot like Big Sean, he just kind of sounds like an amalgamation of his contemporaries. He doesn't really sound all that distinct. He doesn't really sound like he has a style, a sound, something that's going to carry him on into the next year. Amine, though, if I'm saying his name correctly, I'm sure there's a lot of jokes and confusion over how exactly to say this dude's name. He's actually pretty funny. He has a few solid tracks, and I think he has a lot of personality. I'm not going to say he's the most unique rapper ever. It's like a lot of one-liners, it's a lot of punchlines, but he does sound like a dude who knows how to write something clever. He knows how to write something kind of silly and ridiculous and tongue-in-cheek. And, that in and of itself is a talent. There's plenty of room for guys like that in the hip-hop game. Ugly God, I love the guy. I love a lot of his singles, but I'm sort of waiting for when that moment is he'll drop like a big tape, a big album. I sort of doubt if it's ever going to happen because I don't know, he's a little bit of a walking meme, and that's fine. You know, I myself am a living meme. I'm not going to hate on a fellow meme. You know, but I sort of wonder whether or not, you know, his meme status is going to be what eventually, obviously it sort of grew his career. Will it also be what kills his career? Because, you know, as long as he sort of stays sort of more in the meme realm than the legitimate rapper, the legitimate artist realm, I think he is still kind of on the table to be replaced by somebody else, you know, who's either equally silly or doing something similar. Then we have Cap G, who, you know, he had a feature in the movie Dope. He's got a Pharrell cosign. And a lot of people sort of build up his heritage, his Mexican heritage, as you know, sort of being an interesting angle for him to work as far as like image in the game right now. But from what I've heard from him of his big singles and some tracks off of his Super Jefe mixtape that he dropped not too long ago, I haven't heard anything all that essential. You know, vocally, I don't really hear anything that's like, whoa, this dude, you know, has really got like a voice. I don't really hear anything lyrically that's blowing me away. You know, he certainly has an ear and a focus on trying to get an earworm chorus into every single song. But, you know, that's kind of the fundamentals. It's kind of the basics. He's not really doing anything, in my opinion, that's really above and beyond artistically or stylistically. You know, again, I think the things that are making him successful this year may continue to make him successful for a little while longer. But if he's going to have any staying power, he's got to come out with better music that's a little less trendy. Not to say that he needs to go underground, but he needs to kind of define himself stylistically, define himself musically away from his contemporaries a little bit, if anybody's going to remember what this dude's music sounds like, you know, outside of, you know, a really catchy hook here and there. Then, again, I mentioned Kyle. You know, I think Kyle has the most potential to drop a big tape, a big album, and have it be like a solid project, you know, that can be loved across the board by fans and critics. And XXX, my dude XXX Tentacles, Tortillas, you know, a lot like Ugly God, he's kind of a walking meme at this point, you know, and I feel like until he drops a tape of, you know, completely original or an album of completely original material that he hasn't just dropped onto YouTube at random, again, he's going to be on the docket to be replaced because there's only so long he could sort of put out this sort of surface level edgy stuff and still maintain fans' attention. Look, you know, I guess if there's one thing that is subpar about this list or sort of questionable about this list is that a lot of the artists included on this list are not really all that well established. You know, they're all currently riding a big wave of internet hype, and that's completely fine. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that. You know, but just comparing this with previous XXL lists, there's definitely a big difference in terms of, you know, whether or not the artists on the list are have sort of proven themselves to be able to not just have staying power in the underground already, but to have the fortitude, the focus, and the wherewithal to actually drop a big full-length project that is actually semi-successful. Some of these artists on this list haven't even taken that step yet. And, you know, and again, not that, you know, all of them haven't dropped mixtapes yet or anything. You know, Cap G has definitely dropped a few at this point. You know, but nothing that's sort of bubbled out from under the mixtape underground. I know he's signed with Warner Brothers right now, but, you know, they're yet to kind of put him up to bat to sort of present him in the same way that they would, like, let's say, a Kodak Black when he drops a new album or something like that. So again, I feel like the careers of all of the people who are featured on this list, they're all very much kind of in limbo right now. You know, whereas, for example, like when XXL included Kendrick Lamar or Ab-Soul, for example, on the freshman lists, you know, the respective lists that they appeared on. You knew they weren't going anywhere next year. You know, like maybe the next album will be bad or something, or maybe it'll be a while until they release another record, but you knew they weren't going anywhere. You know, that is still very much up in the air, I think, for a lot of the people featured on this list. You know, whether that be because the industry doesn't end up favoring them in the next few years, they don't end up dropping another hit, sounds and trends and styles and everything change, and then all of a sudden another wave of new artists that are also internet based and on whatever new wave replaces them, you know, they're gone because something else, you know, comes into play that that they're not a part of. I don't know. You know, I feel like with the volatility of the music industry and with the lack of legitimate, big, and you know, sort of attention demanding material, you know, under the belts, respectively, of each person on this list, you know, there is a real question as to whether or not we'll see any of these people doing big moves in 2017. Yeah, I don't know. Again, you know, I do think XXX does have some potential if he sort of sits down and focuses beyond just, you know, a feature here and there, a random track on YouTube, meme this, meme that. Same thing with Ugly God. Same thing, you know, not same thing. I don't think she's a meme, but, you know, I think Kamaya has potential. I think Cap G has potential, even though I'm not big into, you know, what he's doing musically right now. And I think Kyle has a ton of potential. And Amine as well. So, you know, but the thing is, really, it's just kind of potential at this point. You know, at least previously when I had seen, you know, this list, for example, I already knew that I loved a project from Anderson .Paak. I already knew that I enjoyed a project from Urbo. I already knew I enjoyed music, or, you know, a lot of music from Denzel Curry. I already knew that I liked the Panda single a lot, although Designer, you know, once he drops an album, if he ever does, you know, that's really going to be whether or not it is decided if he goes on into the next year. And Little Yachty, I already knew I loved that boat tape. So, you know, again, and, you know, and there were already there was already a solid body of material under 21 Savage for his fans to sort of be like, holy shit, you know, this dude is next. This dude is great. And kind of the same thing with Kodak Black too, and Little Dicky too. Little Dicky already had a huge album by the time he landed on this list. So, you know, I guess, again, what's kind of making me weird about this one over here is that this freshman class, they're not quite as established. They're not quite as established. And, you know, I think that's what's kind of just got me question.